This part of the presentation is about the types of monophasic liquid dosage forms. The first form is the solutions. Solutions are liquid preparations containing one or more solute dissolved in a solvent. The solute which is added is always non-volatile in nature. Solute exerts the therapeutic effect, and either it is taken internally or externally or applied externally. Then solutions may vary in the composition, method of preparation, strength, potency, mode of administration, and the dosage. There are three methods for preparing a solution. First is a simple solution, second, solution by chemical reaction, and third is solution by extraction. The first method is simple solution or simple dissolution. In this case, a solute is dissolved in a solvent and it is mixed by simple stirring with or without heating. And apart from the solvent, there may be some excipients which are added in the system to solubilize or stabilize the solute or the active ingredient. Example of this is Lugol's solution. Second method is solution by chemical reaction, in which two or more solute reacts with each other in a suitable solvent. The example for this is calcium carbonate and lactic acid, which is used to prepare calcium lactate mixture. This is used as an antacid and also to treat calcium deficiencies. The third method is called as extraction method, in which of course the source is the plant or animal product, and the drug active ingredient from these products are extracted. Now this cannot be called as solution, but these are generally classified as extractives. So these are the two examples of solution what we have covered in lab. So first is a magnesium citrate solution. The formula is magnesium carbonate, anhydrous citric acid, syrup, talc, lemon oil, potassium bicarbonate and water. Dakin's solution or chlorinated soda lime solution. The constituents are boric acid, chlorinated lime, sodium carbonate and purified water. The second dosage form is the aromatic waters, what we have prepared in our lab. So they are defined as clear aqueous solutions saturated with volatile oil. The examples of aromatic water are rose water, peppermint water, dill water, gripe water or camphor water. So the odor and the taste of the aromatic water will be the same as the drug which is present in the aromatic water. Say for example, if you are having a camphor water, then the odor and the taste of the water will be of the camphor. Similarly, when we are preparing a dill water, so odor and taste will be of the dill oil. Next, the aromatic waters are used for perfuming, flavoring, and for special purposes. I've listed two examples. Camphor water is generally used for its refreshing and stimulating effect in the preparation. Hamamelis water is employed as a rub or perfume or as an astringent in various cosmetic preparations. Hamamelis is generally used in aftershave lotions. Now, depending upon the concentration of aromatic substance present in the aromatic water, they are classified as simple aromatic water or concentrated aromatic waters. That is dilute or concentrate. Now, as the definition says, aromatic waters are aqueous solutions with volatile oil. So, being water being a medium, they are more susceptible to deterioration or degradation. So, it is always said that it should be prepared in small quantities. Also, because of the presence of volatile substances, it has to be protected from intense light and excessive heat, and it is stored properly in an airtight and light resistant containers. Now, if there are precipitation in the oil, so the preparation may become cloudy, and at that time you have to discard the preparation. Deterioration may be also because of the volatilization of the volatile substance present, or decomposition or mold growth in the aqueous media. So next is about the method of preparation of aromatic waters. So the first method is distillation method. So in distillation, what we do is the source, either the plant or the animal source from which the drug is to be extracted, is placed in an RBF or round bottom flask with adequate amount of water, and then it is subjected to heating. So the oil, depending upon the boiling point, the oil and the water, it gets uh, evaporated, and it gets collected in the form of distillate. So the upper layer will be of the oil and the lower layer will be of the water. Now this distillate can be separated, and again a second cycle of distillation can be carried out. So the examples of aromatic waters which are prepared by this method is strong rose water and orange flower water. The second method is a solution method. This method we use in our lab. In this case, the aromatic water is prepared by shaking 2 ml. Say if the aromatic drug uh, or the aromatic volatile substance is a liquid, we have to take 2 ml, and if it is a solid, we have to take 2 grams. So this aromatic substance is dissolved in 1000 ml of water, and it is stirred for 15 minutes. And after that, we have to set aside this solution for 12 hours, and without shaking, we have to filter it, and if required, the volume is made up with water. Third method is alternative solution method. Now this method uses talc as a distributing agent. So what is done is the oil is added in the talc, and this mixture, that is oil and talc, is added in 1000 ml of purified water, and this is kept aside for 30 minutes with intermittent shaking, and finally it is filtered. Now, what is the role of talc here is there are some few oils which will not dissolve equally in or uniformly in water. So this talc will absorb the oil over it, adsorb the oil over it, and this will distribute the oil throughout the solvent system, and this will result in proper distribution of oil in the aromatic water. So the example of aromatic water is the dill water, what we have prepared in our lab. The concentration of dill oil is 12.5 in 100 ml, and alcohol is added as co-solvent. The volume required is 70 ml. Second example I have taken is for chloroform water. Uh, so the uh, formula is 2.5 ml of chloroform in 1000 ml of water. And these are few marketed aromatic waters. Generally, gripe waters are used. These are the mixtures of various aromatic oil given to infants for relieving the stomach pain due to flatulence or gases or acidity. So the next dosage form is a syrup. So syrups are defined as concentrated aqueous solution of sucrose or other sugar to which the medicament or flavoring agents are added. Now simple syrup, it contains only sucrose and purified water. The simple syrup is official in both IP and USP, and that is used as a vehicle in most of the formulation. Then syrups containing pleasantly flavored substance are called as flavored syrups. Now these are generally added as a diluent. The example are cherry syrup and acacia syrup, which imparts the flavor to the formulation. Second is the medicinal syrup, which in which we add medicaments for the therapeutic effect. The examples are guaifenesin or any cough syrup. Now, simple syrup, it contains sucrose and water. Now, concentration of sucrose according to IP is 66.7% weight by weight, whereas according to USP it is 85% weight by volume, which is equal to 64.7% weight by weight. Now, this concentration will inhibit the entry of bacteria because it will exert high osmotic pressure, which will not allow the entry of bacteria in the syrup. Also, there will be no water available for the growth of microorganism. More dilute the syrup, more it will be susceptible to growth of microorganism. Now again, there is one problem associated with this high concentration of sucrose, that is uh, because of temperature fluctuation which occurs during the transit period or transportation or storage period. There may be crystallization of sugar which happens, so that may lead to instability. uh, so to avoid this, we can add some polyhydric alcohols like glycerol sorbitol in small amounts, which will retard the crystallization of sucrose. Now, this crystallization of sucrose can happen at the mouth of the bottle, so that phenomena is called as cap locking. Syrups are generally preferred for the pediatric patient. So, taste, odor is an important criteria which has to be considered during formulation. So, we'll discuss the components of the syrup. So, along with the medicinal or the medicament and the vehicle, that is water, uh, the first important ingredient is this sugar. Usually, sucrose is added or any substitute of sucrose is added, which will impart sweetness and it will give good viscosity to the formulation. Now, as we are using sugar and water, so there are chances of microbial attack, so we have to add antimicrobial preservatives, again flavors and colorants to have aesthetic appeal. Now, there are some special solvents which are added to improve the solubility of the drug, along with solubilizing agent, thickeners, and stabilizers in the formulation. Next, we'll discuss about the sucrose and the non-sucrose based syrup. Now, in case of sucrose syrup, we add sucrose as a sweetener. Other than that, sucrose can be replaced in parts or completely with the other sugars like sorbitol, glycerine, and propylene glycol. Now, the disadvantage of this sucrose based syrup is that we cannot use this type of syrup in diabetic patients. So, alternative is the use of non-sucrose syrup. Now, non-sucrose syrup contains non-glycogenetic substances. Non-glycogenetic substances are the substances which are not converted to glucose in our body. So, the examples of non-glycogenetic substances are methyl cellulose and hydroxyethyl cellulose. So, these substances, when they are added, will not have any problem in the diabetic patient. So, advantage of this type of non-glycogenetic substances, adding non-glycogenetic substances, that they are not hydrolyzed and they are absorbed into the bloodstream, and with respect to the formulation, they are similar to the syrup which are prepared by using sucrose. Again, so this can be easily given to a diabetic patient and for the patients who are under restricted diet, who needs to control the glucose level in the body. Again, coming to the formulation aspect, the viscosity of the syrup which is formulated by using non-glycogenetic substance is similar to the syrup which is prepared by sucrose, and it we can add some artificial sweeteners in the non-glycogenetic substances to impart the sweetness. About the method of preparation of syrups, The first method is solution with heat. As the name suggests, we are making the solution with heating. Now, the first step is we have to heat the water at 80 to 85 degrees Celsius, and we have to remove the heat source. And then sucrose is added and mixed thoroughly. Now, in this stage, the ingredients which are heat resistant, that is, who can withstand this high temperature, are added, and the ones which are heat sensitive or they require lower temperature, which are say volatile substances, are added after the solution attains the room temperature. Now, during heating, there are chances that the sucrose gets hydrolyzed into dextrose and fructose. Dextrose and fructose are called as invert sugar, and the process of conversion of sucrose into dextrose and fructose is called as inversion. Now, this process takes place more rapidly in presence of acid, and this inversion leads to darkening of solution. Second method is agitation without heat. This is a very simple method wherein we take large vessels in which the mixing is done. All the ingredients are added in the water first, and then this solution is added to the syrup solution. Now, this particular method, that is dissolving the solid ingredients in water and then adding it to the syrup, results in easy mixing, as a sugar solution generally retards mixing. So once we have a proper mix of all the ingredients in water, and this water aqueous solution is added to syrup, this will help in proper mixing of all the ingredients in the syrup solution. Next method is the percolation method. Now, in this we have a percolator or any cylindrical or cone shaped vessel in which we have a sucrose layer, or you can say a sucrose bed, over which a solution of drug is added. Now, the solution can be either prepared in water or any other solvent. What happens here is the solvent or the water, it will dissolve the sucrose when it comes in contact with it, and then it will be going down in the form of extract. Next is about preserving syrups. It is very important to preserve syrup because it has sucrose, which is prone to microbial attack. So we have already discussed that when we are formulating a simple syrup that has a high concentration of sucrose, so this high concentration of sucrose will not allow the entry of microorganism in the container. That is because of its high osmotic pressure. Now, in case of dilute syrup, uh, microbial growth is possible, so we need to add some preservatives. Now, these preservatives are glycerine, methyl parabene, benzoic acid, sodium benzoate, etc. So, depending upon the requirements, any of the preservatives can be added, or a combination of preservatives can be used. Now, apart from preservatives, there are also other excipients which are added in the syrup, which may act or which may contribute to the preservation. Generally, if syrup, if it is stored at lower temperature, it is a best way to preserve the syrup. It should not be stored above 25 degrees Celsius. Next topic is about the artificial sweeteners. A variety of artificial sweeteners has been approved by FDA for use in oral liquids. These artificial sweeteners are they have very high sweetness as compared to sucrose, and they are required in very small quantity. But there are some advantages or disadvantages associated with it that we have already discussed in the formulation part of this monophasic liquid dosage form. So, to list some, we have acesulfame, potassium, aspartame, saccharin, and sucralose. Now, if we consider aspartame, it is 200 times more sweeter than sucrose. If it is saccharin, it is 500, and if it is sucralose, it is 300. Now, this table shows the properties of the individual artificial sweeteners in terms of solubility, stability, and the recommended daily intake limit, which is given by WHO. Then we come to the large scale manufacturing of syrup. So there are three important steps. One is mixing, second is filtration or clarification, and last is filling and packaging. So mixing of the syrup is generally done in jacketed vessel. Jacketed vessel will have an advantage when we have to control the temperature. Turbine mixers are used for mixing the solids because they are solids in the syrupy vehicle, because they are viscous as compared to the solutions. Then finally, when we are done with the mixing part, filtration is done, and the formulation is filled in the bottles. Next, we'll take few examples of syrup. These two examples we have covered in lab also. So we have simple syrup that has only sucrose and water. This is according to IP. Hence, the concentration of sucrose is 66.7% weight by weight. Next example is of codeine phosphate syrup. Formula is given, that is codeine phosphate, purified water, chloroform spirit, and syrup. Next dosage form are the elixirs. Elixirs are clear, liquid, flavored hydroalcoholic preparations which are intended for oral use. Now they may contain one or more medicament which are and the vehicle is generally flavored, attractive in color, and has high concentration or proportion of alcohol or sucrose along with polyhydric alcohols with some suitable additives like antimicrobial and stabilizers. The alcoholic content in elixir is 5 to 40%. This is very important point. Then next is it they are more stable than the mixture because the alcohol which is added as a solvent will always maintain the drug or the solubility of drug in the solution. Next is most of the elixirs they become turbid when they are diluted with aqueous fluids. This is because when we have already done with the solubility part, that is mixing solubilizing a drug in a solvent, and if we add aqueous solvent, then the solubility of that particular solute may change, and that will lead to turbidity. Now, depending upon the presence of a drug, the elixirs are classified into two, that is non-medicated elixirs and the medicated elixirs. As the name suggests, medicated will have medicine and non-medicated will not have any medicine. So, example for non-medicated is the compound benzaldehyde elixir or aromatic elixirs. These are generally used as solvent. Then next is medicated elixirs which will have medicaments in it. So one which we have already prepared in lab is piperazine citrate elixir, and one is colaxacillin elixir. Next we come to preparation of elixirs. Elixirs are prepared by dissolving the ingredients with simple agitation or by mixing two or more liquid components in suitable solvent. Now generally we have two solvents, one is the alcohol and other is water. So the solutes or the ingredients which are soluble in alcohol are added in alcohol, and the solute or the ingredients which are soluble in water are added in water. Now this is very important, that aqueous solution is always added to the alcoholic solution. After this, two liquids, that is aqueous solution and the alcoholic solutions, are mixed properly with constant stirring, and the volume is made with the required solvent which is mentioned in the formula. Now after this, what there are chances that the flavoring agents, they are nothing but the oils which are added, so they may separate out because they were soluble in alcohol first, and with the addition of the aqueous say liquid, there may be separation. So this can be avoided by adding talc in the preparation, which will distribute the flavor or the oil properly in the system, and finally we can remove it by filtration to get a clear elixir. Next slide shows the preparation, marketed preparation, the one which we have covered in the lab, that is piperazine citrate elixir. The formula is given, that is piperazine citrate, then it has peppermint spirit, green S or tartrazine solution, glycerol syrup, and water. Next example is of paracetamol elixir, which has paracetamol, ethanol, propylene glycol, invert syrup, amaranth, and glycerol. Next dosage form is the Linctus. Linctus are solutions of one or more medicaments that usually contains large amount of sucrose or glycerine as sweetening agent. So basically it has sucrose or glycerine as vehicle, as linctuses are meant to be retained in the mucous membrane of the throat. So vehicle should be viscous. So if we add glycerine as a vehicle, that will give an demulcent effect. If we add syrup or large amount of sucrose, that will give an soothing effect on the sore mucus. Because it is meant to have a prolonged action or local action, it is always given in the instruction part that it is to be sipped and swallowed slowly without addition of water. Generally, the dose of Linctus is 5 ml. Like syrup, we can have a sugar-free Linctus wherein the sucrose is completely replaced by sorbitol or non-sugars, which will impart the sweetening property. This is a simple Linctus which is marketed and the formula is given. This we have already prepared in our lab. So the formula is citric acid, chloroform spirit, amaranth solution, concentrated anise water and syrup. This slide shows few marketed preparations. One is codeine phosphate Linctus, and then next is promethazine and folcodeine cuff Linctus, and last is Coflate SF. SF stands for sugar free. Next we come to eardrops, also called as otic drops or solutions, otic solutions. Why we require eardrops is the external auditory canal is it provides an excellent environment for bacterial growth because it is warm and moist. So eardrops can be in the form of solution or suspensions which are used to treat infection in the external auditory canal. The vehicles which are used in the preparation of eardrops are water, dilute alcohol, glycerine, polyethylene glycol, and along with the vehicle and the drug which is used for the treating infection, auxiliary substance or excipients are added, and they are buffers, stabilizing agents, dispersing agents, solubilizing agents, and agents to adjust the tonicity and viscosity of the preparation. It is very important to have same tonicity as that of the eardrop. Now any of this substance or excipient which is added should not adversely affect the intended medical action of the drug which is added, and it should be used in optimum concentration or minimum concentration so that it will not cause any local irritation in the ear. Eardrops are also supplied in the form of dry powders, sterile form of course, which are meant to be constituted with the sterile liquid immediately before use. Aqueous solutions are generally not suitable for eardrops because the secretions in the ear are mainly fatty, and the aqueous solutions, if we prepare them, then they will not mix with the secretion and it will not be effective. Again it will have an additional it will give an additional media for growth of bacteria. Eardrops are also used to soften the ear wax and to treat ear infection. Many kind of eye drops can be used as eardrops, but this is the opposite is not true. That is, eardrops cannot be used for the as a eye drop. Next, we have some marketed preparations. One is named as D-Biotic. This is a broad spectrum antibiotic which has ofloxacin, clotrimazole, beclomethasone, and dipropionate eardrop. Next is Solivax, used to soften the ear wax. So it has para-dichlorobenzene benzocaine and chlorbutol along with turpentine oil as a softener. Third, we have ear clear or for swimmers ear because uh, water can enter and it may lead to infection. So it contains acetic acid and isopropyl alcohol. Next formulation is nasal drops. They are aqueous or oily monophasic liquids which are isotonic and has a pH of about 5.5 to 6.5. Nasal drops are generally used to relieve nasal congestion, inflammation, and infection. So, the category of drugs they belong to antihistaminic, sympathomimetic, and antibiotics. Now, oily vehicle is generally not used in the formulation of nasal drop because oil will inhibit the movement of cilia in the nasal mucosa and it may reach the lungs and cause lipoidal pneumonia. The vehicle should have a pH of about 5.5 to 7.5. It should have proper buffering capacity. It should be having same tone as that of the secretions and it should be properly viscous. Next, we have some marketed preparation. One is NasoClear. This is saline nasal drops. This contains sodium chloride, which is isotonic, and the vehicle here is water for injection, along with the preservative. Second formulation is Otrivin, which is having oxymetazoline hydrochloride. This is used to treat nasal congestion. Next formulation is lotion. They are dilute aqueous solution or suspensions meant for external application. They are applied without friction. Very, very important. Lotions are applied without frictions. A wide variety of ingredients may be added for the preparation so that we get a better dispersion. We get a cooling property, soothing action, drying or protective property for the lotion. So whatever ingredients are added will give a better dispersion, then cooling effect, soothing effect, drying and protective effect. Sodium CMC or methyl cellulose will localize and hold the active ingredient in contact with the affected site. That is, it will be retaining the formulation in the affected area. So they are used in the preparation. The formulation containing glycerine will keep the skin moist for a considerable period of time. Again, for cooling effect, evaporating vehicles like alcohol can be added. Most of the lotions are perfume and they are used for protective or for therapeutic effect. Next, we come to method of preparation of lotion. Lotions are prepared by a simple trituration of ingredients to form a smooth paste and then cautiously adding the remaining amount of the liquid phase and then finally mixing it with high-speed mixers or homogenizers. The classic example of lotion is calamine lotion, which consists of finely powdered insoluble solid, which are more or less permanent suspension and like they may be reconstituted if by shaking because of presence of suspending agents or surface active agents in it. The first method for preparation of a lotion was very simple. That is, we have to triturate the ingredients to form a smooth paste and then add remaining amount of vehicle in it. The second method is by chemical reaction. Again, a classic example of this is preparation of a white lotion. The formula is given, that is zinc sulfate, sulfurated potash and water. Now, sulfurated potash is a mixture of potassium polysulfides and potassium thiosulfate. To prepare this, we have to dissolve zinc sulfate and sulfurated potash separately in purified water, and then slowly the sulfurated potash is added to zinc sulfate with constant stirring. So there is reaction between sulfurated potash and zinc sulfate. The reaction is discussed in the next slide. Next, we have two examples of lotion. One is benzyl benzoate lotion. The formula is benzyl benzoate, triethanolamine, oleic acid, and water to make up the volume. And in case of calamine lotion, we have calamine, zinc oxide, glycerine, bentonite, and calcium hydroxide. So this is the marketed preparation, the one which we have discussed, that is calamine lotion. It has calamine, zinc oxide, and menthol. And this one is ketoconazole, that is an antifungal. So this can be applied to scalp. And along with ketoconazole, it has zinc pyrithione that is used for dandruff. Before starting liniments, we'll define some terms. One is rubefacient. Rubefacents are the substances which produces redness of the skin, and this is because of dilation of the capillaries and increase in the blood circulation in that areas. Now if this happens, it is believed that the rubefacient is will relieve the pain in various musculoskeletal conditions. So the commonly used rubefacient is salicylate. The second term is counter irritant. Now this is a substance which create irritation or mild inflammation in one location with a goal of lessening the discomfort or the inflammation in the other location. So जहाँ पे पेन हो रहा है वहाँ पे वो पेन नहीं दिखाएगा. It will be showing some inflammation or pain in some other area. So therefore that is called as counter irritant. So menthol or camphor works to relieve pain by distracting the brain from receiving pain signals resulting from conditions such as osteoarthritis or injuries such as sprains and strains. So coming to liniments, liniments are alcoholic or oleaginous solutions or emulsions of various medicinal substances which are intended to be rubbed on skin. They may be solution of soap or emulsion. With this base, that is soap and emulsion, it provides ease of application and massage. Liniments with alcoholic or hydroalcoholic vehicles are useful when rubefacient, counter-irritant or penetrating action is required, and when uh, oleaginous liniments are employed when the massage is desired. Oleaginous liniments are less irritating to the skin than the alcoholic liniments, of course, because of the fatty or the oily substance present in it. Again, liniments are not applied to skin which are broken, so that may lead to irritation. Now, the vehicle which is used in the liniment should be selected properly depending upon the action which is required. Say, if we require a rubefacient, counter irritant, or penetrating action, we use alcoholic or hydroalcoholic vehicle. And if massage is required, then we use an oleaginous liniment or base. And also, we have to consider the solubility of the component in the solvent used. Now, alcohol, it produces rubefacient action. Again, it facilitates absorption of the medicaments in the skin. Oleaginous liniments, in this case, the solvents can be fixed oil like almond oil, peanut oil, sesame oil, cottonseed oil, and volatile substance such as wintergreen oil, turpentine, or a combination of fixed and volatile oil. The method of preparation is the same, that is either solution, suspension, or emulsion. Next slide shows two examples of liniment. One is camphor liniment and the other is chloroform liniment. So camphor liniment is prepared in cottonseed oil and chloroform liniment is prepared in camphor and soap liniment. These are the marketed liniments. One is turpentine liniment. Next is diclofenac, capsaicin, and menthol and camphor liniment. Now, balm which is available in the market, the pain balms, are counter irritants. They are also type of liniment. Now we have discussed about lotions and liniments. You are supposed to write an assignment on lotions, difference between the lotions and liniments. Now this will be in terms of definition, the vehicle used. Uh, there is a statement in lotion and liniment that one is applied with friction and one is applied without friction. So that has to be mentioned here along with the formulation aspect. Next we come to spray solutions. They are aqueous, alcoholic or glycerine solutions which are intended for spraying in throat or nose. Now nasal sprays, they are used to relieve nasal congestion, inflammation or infection. So the category of drug will be antihistaminic, sympathomimetic or antibiotic. Throat sprays usually contains antiseptics, deodorants, and are employed to relieve conditions such as sore throat or laryngitis. Sprays may also contain local anesthetic and they are antiseptic, skin protectant, and for cosmetic purpose. So these types of sprays are also available in the market. Now the spraying will require a special device that is called as atomizer. The design of the atomizer is based upon the formulation. Spray device, it produces relatively coarse droplet if the action of the drug is to be restricted to the upper respiratory tract when we are having a throat spray. Now if the action is beyond this upper respiratory tract, then we required fine droplets to be produced. So in this case the size of the outlet of the atomizer should be small. Have you heard about aerosols? Aerosols are pressurized package. Now in this case the pressure inside the aerosol is built with the help of gases, inert gases. So whenever we press the actuator or the atomizer, the gas along with the ingredients it come outside in the form of fine mist or fine droplets. Again a marketed preparation, but this is of a throat spray. So if you see, the design of the atomizer is different than the one which we have seen in the earlier slide. This is long enough so that it will allow the drug to reach into the respiratory tract. Next formulation is throat paints. We have prepared Mandel's paint in the lab. So paints are nothing but a simple solution of substance in viscous solvent. So the solvent is viscous, namely glycerine and liquid paraffin. Uh, with this solvent, when we are using, this will uh, prolong the residence time of the formulation in the throat area, and this is always applied with a brush. So throat paints are generally used for the treatment of inflammation, including stomatitis, pharyngitis, laryngitis, and tonsillitis. So the drugs belonging to the category of astringent, antiseptic, and analgesic are included in the throat paints. So apart from this, the formulation discussed earlier, there are few monophasic formulations which are not mentioned in the syllabus, but we should have an idea of what it is. So the first is the tinctures. Tinctures are alcoholic or hydroalcoholic solutions which are prepared generally from the vegetable or animal source. The chemical source is not included, but USP includes the drugs which are obtained from chemical source also. So these drugs are present in a very dilute proportion, depending upon the number of extract in the tincture, that is either it is a single extract or a mixture. So depending upon that, they are classified as simple tincture and compound tincture. Now the tincture of potent drug represents the activity of 10 gram in each of 100 ml of tincture. that is they are 10% tincture with few exception. Now if at all it is a non-potent drug, then the amount of drug present in 100 ml will be 20 grams. Like in case of potent drug, it is 10 grams in 100 ml. In case of non-potent drug, it is 20 grams in 100 ml. If we are extracting it from the fruit, that is the fruit peel is used to prepare a tincture, then the amount of peel is 50 grams. Tincture is always prepared by percolation or maceration. Percolation is nothing but the one which we have discussed in the preparation of syrup. That is, we have a cylindrical vessel in which the drug is kept. In this case, the drug is kept and the alcohol or hydroalcoholic solution is added. And the alcohol or hydroalcoholic solution will extract the drug from the layer, and then it will come down as an extract. In case of maceration, again there is no special equipment used. It's just a vessel in which the drug is kept in contact with the vehicle as in alcohol or hydroalcoholic solution, and then there will be extraction of the drug, and that is filtered finally. So the example of tincture is digitalis tincture, opium tincture, and compound benzoin tincture. One more formulation is spirit. Spirit or essence are alcoholic or hydroalcoholic solution of volatile substance. Usually they are volatile oils with alcohol content ranging from 62 to 85%, which is the percentage is 62 to 85. So that corresponds to about 124 to 170 proof of alcohol. Then most frequently they are used as flavoring agents. The essence, we know that they are used as flavoring agents. Then some are used as medicinal for the medicinal effect, but most of them are used for the flavoring effect. Again, because of high alcohol content, addition of water may lead to turbidity or separation. Example of this is chloroform spirit and orange spirit. Gargles are again an example of monophasic liquid dosage form. They are aqueous solutions for pharynx and nasopharynx, which are intended to be diluted with warm water before use. Again, the category of drug included in the gargles are antiseptic, antibiotic, or anesthetic. Example is povidone iodine gargle, commonly marketed as betadine gargle. Next formulation is mouthwash. They are again aqueous solution just like gargles, but they are intended to wash the mouth. So they are used for deodorant, refreshing, or sometimes antiseptic effect. They contain alcohol, glycerine. Again, when they are used in mouth, so they need to have sweeteners. For cleaning purpose, they need to have surfactant so that a small amount of foam is produced that will give a washing effect along with flavors and colors. So mouthwash are used to reduce plaque, gingivitis, dental caries, and again it is used to reduce the bad breath through the use of antimicrobial or flavoring agent. Glycerides or glycerines are viscous hygroscopic solutions of medicaments which contains not less than 10% by weight of glycerine and which are intended to be applied externally. Glycerine can be used alone as a vehicle or in combination with water, alcohol, or both water and alcohol. Generally, antiseptic and astringent drugs are included in glycerine. The example are phenol, borax, boric acid, tannic acid. This we have prepared in our lab. Collodion is a form of monophasic liquid dosage forms. These are principally a solution of pyroxylin in a vehicle of ether or alcohol, and they are intended to be painted on the skin by using a brush or a rod, and it is allowed to dry. Now when this dries, it leaves a protective film which is covering the site, and these are highly volatile and highly inflammable because it has vehicle like alcohol and ether. So appropriate labeling should be done